Kidush Hachodesh Perek Chamishi. So halacha aleph. Kol ma she'amarnu mit kviyas Rosh Chodesh al Re'iyah ve'ibra Hashana. Everything we discussed so far regarding establishing Rosh Chodesh based on when you see the new moon and when you have to determine based on the location of the sun if it should be a leap year or not. Based on the things are in the sky, or a pashut based on practical necessities, like we discussed. If the roads are muddy, things like that. In Aish and Aisay, El Sanhedrin Eretz Yisrael, it has to be done by the Sanhedrin in Eretz Yisrael. Or Bez not smuchim Eretz Yisrael, or it could be a regular bezin that has the standard smicha from Moshe to Yeshua, the tradition of smicha in Eretz Yisrael. Should Nasim Sanhedrin Rishus. If the Sanhedrin gives this bezin Rishus, even though none of the members are members of the Sanhedrin, they could do it in that case. The Ramban actually argues in this Rambam. The Ramban says that it had to have smicha, but it's not necessary that the Sanhedrin has to be part of it. They give them reshus. As long as they have smicha, they could do it. So I'm not sure how that works in terms of who has the reshus, but okay, fine. According to the Rambam, it has to be the Sanhedrin or a bezin that has reshus from the Sanhedrin. And this is what Hashem tells Moshe and Aaron. This month for you is the beginning of all months, meaning the month of Nisan. We know by tradition from Moshe. Basically, the pshat in the pasuk is like this. Eidus zud. Pshat in the pasuk is this month is the first month. Nisan is the first month, but he's also saying that this testimony, Eidus zud tia mesur lechem. This testimony of the new moon is given over to you, to the Sanhedrin, which is Moshe and Aaron, who are the heads of the Sanhedrin. Whoever stands in your place in the generations after you. Now, what if there is no Sanhedrin? So how do you know what day it is? In Kreiv and Chadash and Vein Me'ab Mishanim, you don't establish a Chodesh, you won't make a leap year. Ela b'chesh ben zeh shem b'chash b'yayim. You accept the only way to do it is to use the calculation you have nowadays for our calendar. So we don't have a Sanhedrin to Eretz Yisrael. We don't have smicha to Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, the determination of the cheshbon of our calendar is what determines what day it is. And if the calendar says today's Tesvav Nisan, then you have a chiyuv and ater to eat matzah tonight because that's what establishes the date. Halacha beis.
Is our what we do in davening in the benching the chodesh, is that ain't kviyas? So this is
it's brought down. It's a zecher. It's not kviyas. No, it's not kviyas. No, not at all. No. There is a concept we'll see soon of what would be somewhat of kviyas today. What does it depend on?
Right.
Okay, halacha beis. V'davar zeh halacha meshusina. Who this matters? Halacha meshusina. Shemizman sheishan hedin.
It seems like it's something very valuable about doing it. Weil der Jemen says that a ganzen Jahr werden eben noch Chodesh und noch Chodesh the Tisha werden
Yeah, no, this is Ruchi Tegin for sure.
Symbolic, nice thing.
No, it's Ruchi for sure. It's not crucial. That this matters. Halacha meshusina. Interesting. Okay, yeah, good point. No, but daft over there, it's given to the Yidden. It says so that's why we daft got the bench Nisan, the Chiddush Tishrei, because that's my okay. Well, not Lamayla. Okay, all right.
It's not crucial, but you might better give the
it's significant. I'm saying in terms of the calendar, it's not halachic. Yeah, no, it's knowing the Melod is I think it says it's good to know the Melod. Yeah, because it's like it's a zeicher for that. Right. It's a zeicher, so that's why. Yeah. She was managed based on the Sanhedrin. When there is a Sanhedrin existing, you establish the months based on the testimony of the Eidim. It was managed in Shum Sanhedrin. There's no Sanhedrin. Use the calculation that's given over that we use today. So it's not just that we had to come up with this calendar. Some people think because the Sanhedrin was bottle and to throw together some sort of cheshbon. The Eibush told Moshe on Sinai that when if there's ever a time there's no Sanhedrin for whatever reason, this is the calendar you use. Historically, we didn't always use it, but it was Moshe Rabbeinu. The Ein is Kakal Re'iyah, and in that context, you don't care about whether the new moon is visible or not. Sometimes the day where Rosh Chodesh falls out is the day when the Melod is visible, or before or after, so it's within around Rosh Chodesh, a day before, a day after. This that the new moon actually is visible. Excuse me, this that Rosh Chodesh is the day after the Melod, or the day when the Melod is actually seen. Pelahu, it's a unique thing. But Artashen, and Nafkin the land to the west of Eretz Yisrael, because over there you see the new moon earlier. Now, I was looking at the calendar today. Since the Melod was before Rosh Chodesh every month this year so far. Rosh Hashanah started Friday night. The Melod was Thursday afternoon, so almost 24 hours before, or more than 24 hours before. So now the Melod we say is really the approximate Melod. It could be 13 hours off from when your telescope could actually see the new Melod with your eye, because it's an average Melod. But so far this year, the Shvat, the Melod will be Rosh Chodesh Shvat it'll be the night of Rosh Chodesh, so already after sunset, the 5 p.m. So it'll be on Rosh Chodesh. But it could be even, let's say, last month, with the middle before Rosh Chodesh, the actual sighting in Eretz Yisrael was on Rosh Chodesh, because again, it could fluctuate 13 hours. But upon him, the Rambam saying that factually, to see the new moon with your eye when the calendar says Rosh Chodesh hasn't started yet is a rare thing, and it's in the lands to the west of Eretz Yisrael. Historically, when did this happen? When did the Yidden start using this calendar as a way to figure out the calendar? When did we stop using the way the Eidim testifying when they saw the new moon? The Gemara is the end of the times of the Gemara. The Eisha Charva Eretz Yisrael was destroyed. And the Bezin established on Hezron did not exist. So that was the end times of the Gemara. At the times of the Chacham of the Mishnah, which is long before the end of the times of the Gemara, obviously. Similarly, in times of the Amoraim, until the times of Abai and Rava, they rely on the new moon when it was established in Eretz Yisrael to know when Rosh Chodesh was. And the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah that Rava, who was one of the late Amoraim, fasted in Kippur 2 days because he didn't know when Rosh Chodesh was. So we see,
Rava was in bubble.
Right? No. So right, exactly, fine. Right. So he didn't know when they made the Eretz Yisrael, right? The Chacham Eretz Yisrael, who his generation, who would have been the Chacham Eretz Yisrael, the famous, I guess.
You had the Yerushalmi in the time of Rabbi. You had Talmud Yerushalmi.
No, but Birchim was long before Rabbi. Birchim was Rabbi Shmuel's generation.
Right.
Whoever it was, he didn't know. So now, good. So Pashut Pshat in the Rambam is that the Pashut didn't know when the Eidim came, when the Bezin said Mekudesh, he has to fast 2 days. Rav Kavach has an interesting word. He basically learns because it seems that really, in order to make the Mailed, you have to have smicha, the traditional smicha Moshe gave to Yeshua, and that stopped long before Abai and Rava. So mainly he learns Pshat that Rava fasted 2 days because he didn't know what the Chacham Eretz Yisrael decided to establish the calendar based on the Cheshbon. We have apps. We know when Yom Kippur is 20 years in advance. They didn't know back then. So Hillel, the second Hillel, made the calendar established for all generations, and anybody who knows some math and the halachas can do it themselves from Hillel and onward. Till that time was a secret. Nobody knew exactly how to do it. So Vayis is that Rava, who fasted.
Rava should have known it then because he.
So it's a good question. According to Rav Kafka, he asked him Pshat, and Rav Kafka has the point because there was no smicha. What's Pshat? In other words, when the Yidden, the family of the Nisim, the descendants of Hillel Hagadol, or the descendants of Yudanasi, same family, when they decide, they have the schus, this halacha of making a calendar based on this year. Okay, should Rosh Hashanah should Cheshvan Kislev be Mali or Chaser? Should be Ibir or not Ibir? They were the ones who had the right to decide that. In other words, not the right to decide. They had the knowledge. Thank you. They had the knowledge to decide what the Cheshvan is this year based on how we're supposed to figure out where the sun and the moon is and where everything is, but they didn't tell anybody. So they only let it out of the bag one year at a time. So he didn't know. So Vaisha Rava comes out already from 6 months earlier, didn't know if it was an Ibra year, so he didn't know what Yom Kippur was. But that's a very interesting way of learning. It's a very strange thing to say. The Pashut Pshat Rambam is
what did he share knowledge with Rava? Makes no sense.
I don't know. I'm just saying he has a good point that the Pashut Pshat Rambam is that the Rava did not know, or the people in that generation did not know when the Bezin Eretz Yisrael established Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. The question is, if there was no smicha, how are they establishing the new moon every month? The smicha was butler before that. Okay, akasha, fine. Dalit, when there was a Sanhedrin, and they established a new moon on a monthly basis, based on seeing the new moon. The people at Yisrael, and all the places where the shluchim of Tishrei reached them, in time to know what the proper day of Sukkot was. They made 1 day of Yom Tov. So if I lived in a city that the Shulchan of Eretz Yisrael always arrived before the end of Yud Daled Tishrei, and I always knew if tonight is going to be Sukkot or not, so then I made Sukkot 1 day of Yom Tov, and the second day was Chol Moed, and every day of Yom Tov I kept 1 day. The other far places, the Shulchan of Tishrei would not reach them on time, and we said last pack on time means the time for Sukkot, even though they couldn't make time from Kippur, we didn't care, but Sukkot was the focus. They made 2 days of Sukkot Misafek. The Pasha didn't know when the first day of Sukkot was. They made 2 days, and we said last time that if they did not know when Sukkot was, they made 2 days of every Yom Tov, even Shavuos, right? For sure, yeah. No, also in Kippur it says.
2 days.
So the
No, but that's the whole point.
So the
They
Pashtas,
suffered for everything.
so the Pashtas in Kippur, they relied on the Bezdin would always try to make it come out in a way. They established the calendar in a way. They would make sure to make it that the moon could be visible on the 30th day of Elul, so that Lamed Elul becomes Aleph Tishrei, and everyone would assume that's the case. And they would fast in Kippur based on that. Although the Chayra, they kept Malacha, not to do Malacha.
Why couldn't they cheshbon out Sukkot that way?
Well, if in Kippur is obviously that time Sukkot is as well, but in Kippur, they were allowed to rely on the chazak, on the assumption that Yom Kippur is going to be 39 days from Rosh Chodesh Elul. In fact, that's almost always how it was. In terms of fasting, in terms of Sukkot, they couldn't do that.
They could do a countdown.
Yeah. In fact, that's always how it was.
You couldn't do it.
For Sukkot, you had to keep 2 days. It's something. In Kippur, they make you fast 2 days. But Malacha Mistam, they kept 2 days. I'm assuming. Why should you not have the Malacha? They kept Malacha. They didn't do Malacha 2 days in Kippur. That's an assumption. I don't know if it doesn't say anywhere.
They kept 2 days, but only 1 day fasting.
Yeah, and the day they kept was the day that was normally in Kippur, because it was almost always, it says from Ezra until the Gemara says till our times, and you can make a cheshbon the Gemara over there, and it comes out that it's basically the generation of Rav and Shmuel, or right, which is the generation after the Yudanasi, that they never ever had a time where they were not able to make Lamed El into Aleph Tishrei, and El was always Chaser. They did not know when did the Bnei Yisrael make the Chodesh. And therefore, any place that had to keep Sukkot 2 days itself, like even though again they almost always found out that the day they assumed was Tesvav was not Tesvav, but they kept it 2 days. They kept every place itself. Oh, good. And they did not. If they didn't reach them on time, they kept 2 days. Hey, Bisman Hazeh nowadays, She'ain Sham Sanhedrin, and there's no Sanhedrin. And the Bezin Yisrael establishes the month or informs the people when it is based on our calendar. What should happen? Everywhere. They should make one that we know what it is, what day it is today. Then we didn't know.
Now that we know.
Even the far places, just getting to show they keep 1 day. Everyone uses the same calendar. That's what we establish Yom Tov. Which the kind of the Chamim, they should keep the minhag of our ancestors to keep 2 days. And why?
We don't keep it out of stuff. We keep it out of Geseda.
Right, that's right. That's why if you're Mechal on the second day of Yom Tov, it's Rabbanon. It's not a matter. It's very negay. If you're possible Eidos or things like that, it's the year to know. Yeah, fine. And different things. But you have certain cases where there was someone wanted to give a whole thing, the story where there was a matzah where a person was gonna die, and the woman would become an aguna. It was the second day of Yom Tov. He said, "Is there a heter to write a get?" He's one with the Rabbanon. Anyway, it's not something material. It's a din Rabbanon. Why the Chachamim said to keep the minhag of our ancestors? So Apichilus is because Chutz La'aretz need 2 days Yom Tov for the Kidush to permeate. The Pasha reason given in the Gemara is that the Chachamim in Eretz Yisrael were worried that if the people in Bavel have a Shasha Shmad, they don't let them teach their children the halachas of the calendar. And of course, they weren't pre-printed back then. So they're going to have to rely on Eretz Yisrael, where people were more free to keep Torah mitzvahs at that generation, and to have to get every single year and information from them when the Chodesh is, when Pesach is. Therefore, keep 2 days in case that happens. And now, if the information passes, it'll take time to come. So you have the same problem. Exactly, lack of communication, the same problem. That's the Pashta reason. All right, Vav. The Chacham, therefore, every place where the Shluchim of Tishrei would not reach that location, when they would go out and inform the people when Rosh Chodesh was, Yasu Shnei Yamim should do 2 days. I think it was even nowadays, as they would do at the time when the Yidden had the calendar based established Rosh Chodesh based on seeing the new moon, because we said they had to keep the minhag of their ancestors. The people at Eretz Yisrael would do only 1 day, like the minhag of their ancestors, because they never did 2 days. Well, most of Eretz Yisrael. We'll see in a second. It's not so posh. Nimtza comes out. The second day of Yom Tov we keep nowadays in Golus. They established this matter. So, for example, Simchas Torah, Minat Torah is not Yom Tov. You should put on Tefillin. The Chum came along and said that you keep Shmiyat Torah 2 days, and that's when we have Simchas Torah, for example. That's all these 2 days.
Just that we learned recently, it seemed like the Rambam said thing that he gave to about Shavuos also, right?
Oh, that was last parak. We said when they tackle, when the Mekasha Piriyah. So the places where because thank you for reminding me to explain this. Because you can't travel Rosh Hashanah, So when Bezin said Mekudesh Tei is not Lamed El Tei is Aleph Tishrei,
there was not time.
they had to travel after Yom Tov, and they couldn't travel Yom Kippur and two Shabbos. And two Shabbosim. So from Rosh Hashanah to Sukkot, they have only 10 days to travel. Okay, if Rosh Hashanah started on Shabbos, they had 11 days. That wasn't usual. So therefore, because of that, they couldn't reach certain places. Those same places, they found out when Pesach was on time, but they didn't find out Sukkot. So even though they knew Pesach, they knew Tei is Tesvav, they still kept the Tes Zayin as if it was Tesvav, and then do Malacha because they had to keep 2 days of Sukkot. So they made it universal.
So the Chacham made a universal.
Right, not Milchala.
At all Yom Tovim, 2 days.
Wherever, if you have to keep Sukkot 2 days, you have to keep every other 2 days, even Shavuos.
Oh, you mean in a scenario that Sukkot that Rosh Hashanah is on Shabbos?
In a scenario where you live in a place where normally you keep your Sukkot,
or it's far.
Right, because it's far away, so the Shulchan would not get.
Or there's no bridges are broken over.
Exactly right. Oh, so we'll see that in a second. It's not just geographic distance, mileage. It also depends on other factors. Yeah, Kapanim was a place where the Yidden in that place, say in this community, there's Manas Sanhedrin. They had to keep Sukkot 2 days in Suffolk. The din was they kept every other to be Suffolk 2 days, even Shavuos. Although I wonder if they put on tefillin with the time. I don't know. They kept 2 days.
So this tikkun of Tikkun Seferim is something else.
Right. This is saying that any place that kept Sukkot 2 days has to keep it even nowadays 2 days and every other 2 days, even though we know when the
day. Now we know.
Exactly. So Vav, the Fichach. I'm sorry. Zayin. Yom Tif Rosh Hashanah. Bizman Shal Yochel Al Riyah. Yom Tif Rosh Hashanah, when they would establish it based on a new moon sighting. Hayrev Bnei Eretz Yisrael. Most Yidden kept Rosh Hashanah 2 days. They did not know whether the Bezin established Rosh Chodesh that day or not. Because Shluchim can't travel Yom Tov, they can't go outside of the Tchum. The Mela, so comes out that if today is Chav Tes, but tomorrow might be Lamed Aleph Tishrei, the next day might be Aleph Tishrei Beis Tishrei. So both days are kept Misafik, which one is Aleph Tishrei Misafik. So the Bnei everybody in Israel kept Rosh Hashanah for 2 days. Ches. Not only that, even Yerushalayim itself, Shumakim Bezdin, which is where the Bezdin was. Most of the history of the Sanhedrin was Yerushalayim. Many times they made Rosh Hashanah 2 days. Why? If the Eidim came in the morning and right at the beginning they came and they established when Rosh Hashanah is, so we knew that Rosh Hashanah is today, not tomorrow. Because what we said in the previous prakim, if the Eidim did not show up the entire 30th day, or for that matter, even if they came later in the afternoon, right? We said they would eventually close. They would close shop after a certain time. Even before that takana, if the Eidim did not show up the 30th day, the Bezdin, the people would establish and would observe that day Kodesh, the next day Kodesh. In other words, because maybe today Lamed Elul Eidim might show up and it might say the Kodesh, we're going to treat this day as Kodesh because it might be Rosh Hashanah. And based on Rashi says in Rosh Hashanah, it comes out that if you do Malacha today, it's not appropriate because of Mafreya, the whole day is Kodesh. So therefore, they kept Rosh Hashanah for 2 days, even in Yerushalayim.
Doesn't Rosh Hashanah start from the night before?
Yeah, but the thing is that the night before is Lamed Elul. If Eidim show up, Lamed Elul transforms into Aleph Tishrei. So now we know that last night when I thought it was Erev Rosh Hashanah, it was actually the first night of Rosh Hashanah.
So I'm saying, so it turned. Let's say the Eidim came by day, right? They have to come by day.
Yeah, right.
It's the only time they can.
Right.
So that, and they say they saw the new moon, so that today is really Aleph.
Right.
So that means anyone that did Malacha was.
So they're not chayiv because it was Yontif, but I could point in anticipation of that possibility, you weren't supposed to do Malacha. You're supposed to treat it like Kodesh. Yeah. So that's therefore in anticipation of that they kept 2 days. Now we also learned in the previous program that if the Eidim didn't show up by a certain time in the afternoon, the Bezdin closed their shops, they should make a problem with the carbon. So they knew for sure that Rosh Hashanah is going to be tomorrow. Today is going to finish as Lamed Elul. It's going to end Lamed Elul. Alpha became they would treat both days like Yom Tov, which is why we keep 2 days Rosh Hashanah, which is why we treat it as one long day. Okay, good. Right. The Rambam is talking about Bechal before that takana. Even the very fact that they would treat both days like Kodesh in case it didn't show up.
Yeah.
So that's Yom Arichah is the concept that they would close shop and they would treat today as Rosh Hashanah, even though they knew for sure tomorrow is Rosh Hashanah. That's why it's not a suffix. It's dafka 2 days. This is saying even before that takana, even before that happened, the whole mess with the carbon, the confusion, and they would hear the Eidim's testimony on Lamed Elul an hour before Shkia. Still, the point is they would treat that day like Kodesh, even though the Eidim didn't show up yet. It's already only an hour left the sunset. They would treat that day like Kodesh. So the people kept both days That was more of a suffix. That was more the suffix.
Whereas today, when we keep the 2 days as a Yom Richter, is because of.
So we keep it today 2 days. Mitzad both. They used to keep 2 days. B'chlal.
We keep all Yom Richter.
Oh, but you're right. But Eretz Yisrael they keep right. So Rosh Hashanah 2 days is kept in Eretz Yisrael. It's the fact that they would very often keep both days. Right. They would keep Lamed El as Rosh Hashanah, and they would wait, hoping for Eid to come.
Right.
Eid didn't show up. Tonight's Yontif. So they end up keeping 2 days.
But today.
So we keep 2 days b'chlal for that evening as well.
That's it.
Yeah, but the nekuda that's treated like one long day halachically, which is why the second night is the suffix of Shachianu. That's beside the fact that there was a takana that you should not receive the Eidim Lamed El in the late afternoon because of this whole problem. So that means that we know today the shop is closed. Eidim, we're not going to hear testimony. Tomorrow's Aleph El.
When did they do that?
We said in the what generation was it? I'm not sure exactly, but sometimes in the Gemara.
But after the minute when they would anticipate.
Yeah. So one time the Eidim came too late and it made a whole confusion with the carbon.
We're not
right.
listening.
So today is for sure Lamed El, tomorrow is for sure Aleph Tishrei, and Aleph became we're treating this day like Kodesh. The Chayr, once we know the best thing closes the shop and not hearing the Eidim, go smoke a cigarette. It's not Yontif. Okay, smoking Yontif. Go do something else. Go mow the lawn. It's not Yontif. But no, because we're treating today and tomorrow Rosh Hashanah, even though it's a Vada and tomorrow's Rosh Hashanah. That's the thing of Yom Arich. Okay. Since they made 2 days back then, even when they made the Chedesh based on the vision on the seeing of the new moon, they instituted that Eretz Yisrael, even Eretz Yisrael, should keep Rosh Hashanah for 2 days. We have a set calendar, but since back then they kept 2 days, like we do all the Yom Tovim, so Eretz Yisrael keep Rosh Hashanah for 2 days for the same reason. That the second day of even the second day of Rosh Hashanah is Bisman Hazeh B'Darabbanan, not Minat because it's Beis Tishrei, not Aleph Tishrei, right? Tess. That's also why we celebrate Rosh Hashanah as Aleph and Beis Tishrei, not Lamed and Aleph El. Also because the fact that El doesn't have a Lamed, you can't do Chav Tess and Aleph. That makes no sense. So it's Aleph and Beis. Okay. Tess. Ein Asiyas Yom Tov Echad Tluya B'Kriyas Makom. Here we're going to say that, like you said before, that whether you keep 2 days or not doesn't depend just on how many miles you are from the Bezdin. So this that we keep Yom Tov for 1 day doesn't only depend on how far from the Yerushalayim is or how far from the Bezdin. Keta, for example, let's say the place from whatever Jewish community you're talking about is 5 days journey or less from Yerushalayim, or less than that. It's certainly possible that the shluchim reach them before Yom Tov, before Sukkot. And we don't suggest these people for sure make 1 day nowadays. Why? Who says that the Bisman was in Hezron, shluchim went to that location? Maybe shluchim didn't go to that place. There were no Yidden living in that place. I mean, now over the past 100 years, that a Jewish community was established in this corner of the desert in Eretz Yisrael. And then after they changed from establishing Rosh Chodesh based on the new moon sighting, and changed it to the calendar we have today, Yashu Sham Yisraelim, Yidden settled there, Shehein Chayam Lasa Sheyam, when they have to make 2 days, because not a place where Shulchan went. Maybe the Shulchan didn't go there because there was a blockade on the road. Like it was between the Yehuda and the south and Golan north. Times of Chacham the Mishnah, right? Times of Chacham the Mishnah, you had the Syrian government and the Egyptian kingdom were fighting. They split. You saw down the middle, and you couldn't go. It was a blockade, right? Like North Korea, South Korea. Yeah, or the kusim would prevent the shluchim from traveling. So for whatever reason, it's very possible that this place, which is relatively close to Yerushalayim, did not have shluchim coming and telling them when Rosh Chodesh was. Yud. If the matter only depended on the geographic proximity, how close it was, all Yidden Mitzrayim in Cairo and in Alexandria, all these places would make 1 day Yontif. Because it's possible theoretically for Shluchim of Tishrei to reach them. I never did this. I'll trust the Rambam. He lived in Egypt. He says that from Yerushalayim, his times, by the whatever travel methods they had, to Mitzrayim, whichever city he's referring to over here, Mitzrayim, to Ashkelon is only an 8-day journey. So if there were Yidden there, in theory, the Shluchim of Tishrei would for sure reach them before Sukkot. The Chain Rev Syria, majority of Syria, this means Syria, but it also basically refers to any place David HaMelech conquered before the rest of Eretz Yisrael was conquered. So they should also keep only 1 day, because theoretically Shulchan could reach there. So you see, it doesn't depend on people being close or far, because Yidden in Egypt always kept 2 days. Yidden in Syria always kept 2 days. Either so close, the Shulchan could reach them if they could reach them before Sukkot, because the Shulchan didn't go there for whatever reason when there was a Sanhedrin. I guess there wasn't a Jewish community there, or wasn't shy to travel, perhaps, for whatever reason. Nimta comes out. So it comes out that here's the primary way how it works. Here's how it works. Any place from Yerushalayim to that location, based on the travel methods available in the time that Rambam was writing, is a journey, or times it's Sanhedrin, same thing, I guess, right? A journey of 10 days or more, which means that most years the shluchim who left Matzah Yom Tov Rosh Hashanah did not reach them in time for the first night of Sukkot. You have to always make 2 days. As there was before. Because the shluchim definitely did not reach anywheres that the journey was not less than 10 days. So for sure. So first of all, if you're 10 days away, 10 days journey from Yerushalayim, you for sure keep 2 days wherever you are. However, again, some places maybe it's a very few miles, but the mountains were very, very big, so they could. Any place that's more than 10 days journey keeps 2 days, hands down, nothing to talk about. No negotiations. Now, any place that was 10 days from Yerushalayim or less, it's possible theoretically for Shulchan to have reached it. We have to see. If that was a place in Eretz Yisrael, and there were Yidden living there in the time of the Second Commonwealth, which means from when Ezra came back with the early Bavel, the second Beis Hamikdash, Usha, Muluz, Yavne, V'nei, all these places. Apparently, this is Tyre. I'm sorry, no, this is Usha, Shafram, Muluz, Yavne, Tiberias. Okay, these are all these places where they were Yidden Kitzben. They make 1 day because they were less than 10 days journey or less, and they were Yidden. The Shluchim went to these places, right? If that place is in Syria, which again, it doesn't mean just Syria, we'll call today, it means David Melech conquered it before the rest of it was conquered. Could go in Sur, Tyre, which is in Damascus, so Ashkelon, of course, is southwest Eretz Yisrael, which shows that Syria here doesn't mean geographic Syria. It means a place David Melech conquered before the rest of Eretz Yisrael. Or it's out there Eretz Yisrael, going Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim, and Amun, of course, is the lands on the southeast of Eretz Yisrael. They made like the minhag of their ancestors. Apparently, it seems the shluchim did not go to Chutz La'aretz, even though they could journey. In theory, there was no. Maybe some people did favors to the relatives to go back and forth and travel, but there was no set shluchim to go to these places. Whatever, or maybe they did. It's not clear. Like upon whatever they did, whatever their ancestors did, Bismanas and Hedron, whatever the minhag there was Bismanas and Hedron, they made it for 1 or 2 days based on what they did then. The Mela, even though it's a less than 8 days journey, or less than 10 days journey, they keep 2 days if that was what happened with Zman Sanhedrin, because for whatever reason Shulchan didn't go, or if there were no Yidden there B'chlal, so the for sure Shulchan didn't go, so they keep 2 days. Now, this raises some interesting questions about what happened to the Eretz Yisrael. So it seems that there's a sefer called Eretz Tzvi. And he says before the waves of immigration in the 1800s, most Yidden kept 2 days in Eretz Yisrael. There wasn't a lot of Yidden. They kept 2 days. And Yerushalayim maybe not. I don't know. He says that the most Yidden keep 2 days. And he says it seems like Ramla didn't have minhagim, like Ramla, which is not Ramallah, that's Arab, right? Yeah. So Ramla, he says they kept 2 days. Akaponim, it seems that I don't know if this is for sure. Maybe it's a Tzionish influence, or maybe it was whatever it was. But the reason why people keep 1 day nowadays is based on our tzva. He says that that the fact that it's in Eretz Yisrael, that you keep 1 day, even if the shulchan didn't go there. But that's the tzva. Based on the Rambam, people who live today in Ashkelon,
communicate because of bonfires.
That was right, but they stopped that. They made shluchim because of the problem. People would make trouble. Yeah. So according to Rambam, though, people, let's say in these places like Ramla, have to keep 2 days yontif. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, 2 days yontif. Right.
That's all the way up north.
Yeah, Lamashal. Yeah, good days. The place between Yerushalayim and whatever location we're talking about. If it's 10 days or less, such a place that's in Syria, there's no minhag, they don't know what was done. It's a new city that was established in the desert in Eretz Yisrael. Right? Or a new place where Yidden settled nowadays. They have to make 2 days, like Mingar Reva Elam. So again, the Rambam holds you could be places in Eretz Yisrael, you make 2 days Yom Tov. Every second day of Yom Tov is the Midarbanon. Even the second day of Rosh Hashanah is Midarbanon.
Even though it's a Yom Arichta.
Yes, even it's Yom Arichta. So, but the second day of Yom Tov is always Midarbanon. The Chumash it says Yom Tov is 1 day. That's Ma'atayda. The second day is Midarbanon.
That's why they make 2 days. 2 days in a lot.
So, but the Mizrachim don't, right? Mizrachim keep 1 day in a lot, no? That's what I thought. Okay, fine.
About
All right. Right. Yeah.
His brother keeps it in Rabbi 2 days also.
You kidding me?
No, I'm not.
They saw that most of the shluchim when they came. They all
Really?
You remember?
You know what? You know what?
They all did.
Yeah. I heard that. Yeah. No.
And the Rebbe got letters every year and didn't do
I
nothing
heard
about
that. So yeah. Listen. All right. My father says that when Bachar went to Eretz Yisrael, when in his times, Bachar kept 2 days Yom Tov in Eretz Yisrael. Today it became popular to keep 1 day. Whatever. Okay. You go. This that nowadays, again, put yourself in the Rambam's mindset. There's no apps, there's no printed calendars. This that we calculate nowadays, every single person in his own city, the calendar, right? The Rav makes a cheshbon, he tells you when Yom Tov is this year. This day is Rosh Chodesh, Yom Tov. Not this our cheshbon that we rely on, that we don't. It's not established based on that. Because you can't establish years or establish a leap years and months in Chutz La'aretz. We are semach on the cheshbon of Yidden Eretz Yisrael and their kaviyus. So because the Yidden Eretz Yisrael know the cheshbon of when the calendar is supposed to work out like we have today, and they keep Yom Tov like that, that's what mechayev all the Yidden in the whole world to keep Yom Tov on those days. So how come now again we have absent calendars, but this that we calculate the galus adov just to know when it is. Since we know that they rely on this, we use our knowledge of the calendar. Good to publicize it. Yes, right. Thank you. It's true. To publicize when the middle is exactly. That's right. So again, if we have apps and calendars, we don't think this way, right? Before. So that's what we're mechashiv to know when the people in Yisrael establish the calendar, so we can already calculate for years in advance. But we just do it to know to keep up when it is. You want to write a calendar with pen and paper and time to Rambam for 25 years? Go ahead. When the people in Yisrael kaveya based on the knowledge of the calendar, that's what makes Rosh Chodesh. We're just following them, which means the Rambam is saying. This is the Chasam Sefer says this, that if you have a Haftacha, there will always be Yidden living in Yisrael for all eternity. Because if it has to be at least one Yid there who keeps Yom Tov based on the calendar, and that is Mechayev Yidden everywhere to keep it based on his calculations. So that is, that's the calendar.
That's probably the printing.
Where did you get this
from?
from?
This is a Chasam Sefer based on